Where's the beef? You promised beef.
I promised nothing. I promised to show up, and so far, I've lost 3 hours of my life. I'm never getting back.
Damn. I was really expecting Wendy's.
No,
Well,
we're in Texas. You go for a fucking Whataburger or nut.
I know, but sometimes you gotta have some variety.
I can't. It's crazy you said that because I was literally talking to Trips. We're driving back to the house one day, and I was like, I'm really having a hankering for some fucking Wendy's right now. Something about that square hamburger.
Oh, I know. Well, the burgers I'm not even a fan of. It's chicken I'm usually a fan of.
Yeah, because
But the Baconator is still good, though.
the
But
beef
yes, well,
double.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of the Exiled Outcast. I'm, of course, your host, freelance OnlyFans model, the House of Chaden. And, of course, my guest is, of course, Mr. Don, the Don.
Don Quixote.
Yes, Don Quixote.
So we were talking about it last week towards the end. Where's the beef, right? And with the climate of things, why not talk about internet beef? I mean, first and foremost, you and I have been involved with internet beefs, and we've allowed, against our better judgment, it to fuel some decisions that we probably wouldn't have made otherwise. It ages you pretty quick. I'll say that.
Yeah, it does.
And
Regarding, like, even like, and we've talked to us for the CM Punk video I posted, basically sums up a good amount of people probably who have dealt with it in their lifetime on here or anywhere. It's not just like even on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, like Facebook, Instagram, you have people start stuff with you there or engaging in it.
well, I'll speak like in the last couple of years, right? Well, I'll just be straightforward, right?
Yeah.
I'll speak for myself first, right? Before I ever try to put anybody else on. And I've been foolish enough to allow stupid comments. Um, I'll put it plainly, like because I feel like I have to respond to something. Someone referred to me as a wrestler, describing my beard and something like that, and I felt not of an embarrassment or an anger, just out of a stupid fucking emotion like pride, right? I felt so prideful that you know what? This guy said something. I feel I should say something back. And when in retrospect, looking back, it was probably stupid. The guy, I probably have more in common with the guy than I thought, but because someone made a comment, I had to respond back, and that's not a way to live. But we're here, and we, like, for instance, we do this program for entertainment. I'm exhausted right now, by the way, if you can't tell, just got off work, but we do this for fun, and it's simple decisions that we make spur the moment in passionate times that we do stupid shit. And that's how most of these beefs start, right? A misunderstanding that could easily have been conversed about and talked about. Hell, it could be privately. Hell, it could be live, but it's those little moments that we make decisions that cause so much fucking hell.
And also it's like regarding all that, there's also like disagreements and all that between people and all that lead to stuff. And then we've talked about this behind, like, in the past regarding this, there are people who just do it for just the pleasure of it and just out of sheer boredom.
Oh yeah, those are
Like,
called trolls.
yeah. Like I try to, like, for example, with trolls, I usually try to deal with it more in a nonchalant way if I do engage. And plus, I've always been someone who believes that if someone trolls and all that, especially if they complain about certain thing about you, and if you just play along for a couple of minutes and then their point becomes a moot point at the end of it. And
But okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll say this. You know me, we have talked about stuff like this, and I've made no bones about it. I like to understand my surroundings. I like to understand who I'm confronting, And so years ago, when I was on a different kind of platform, on a different kind of island, let's just say, I wanted to understand what it was to be a troll. Like I wanted to know like what, so when I'm weird, so I put way too much effort into shit. So I made a troll. If you've ever seen the show How I Met Your Mother,
Yes, great
Tommy
show.
Vincent's in it, and there was a character he played when going to this dating web or this dating place where he made a fake name called Jack Package, Jack Package. So I made an avatar. It was a black and white version of that character, Jack Package, and I would heckle people. I see because I try to be. It's one of the things people can't stand about me, and I get it. I try to be a little bit better. I try to make it a little more classy. So I started calling myself a heckler. I wasn't a troll. And I embodied this whole heckler character. I embodied. I was a gay man from New York as a troll. That was my gimmick as the troll. And I would call people dime store, and I would say, "Oh, you must shop at uh, Saks or something like that, or you must be a Mervin's girl, or yeah, like you must shop at Sears. You must shop at Sears. You couldn't afford Fifth Avenue clothing," and I would just fuck with people, right? Like, and I played the role. I was a gay man from New York who heckled people, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought I was taking a different route. I thought I was doing something if, in my mind, I thought I was doing something interesting, and that people would come back when the big reveal. I told everybody I was Jack Package, and they weren't. They were pissed at me, and they felt fucking betrayed. And I got a lot of heat for that. Like, it built, and it did. It caused a lot of fucking animus with a lot of these people who I thought were cool, but they all like I have that. I try to be a creative minded person. Like I like to do stuff like that. I like to draw and write stories and shit like that. And I didn't realize how much people took that. Like I didn't think that people would go that far as to be that upset over something as simple as just like a character that I made.
Yeah, and that's something that nowadays on here you have to have very thick skin to deal with stuff like that, because like it's just the idea of, hey, why am I going to let some stranger that I've never met or never probably ever going to meet in person get to me, and it could be, again, what I mentioned earlier about no reason behind what they're doing. Then there's others who just don't like you because whether it's your viewpoints, your opinions on a movie. Like as someone who has reviewed movies in the past, I've had people get mad if there's a movie that they hate that I liked, or that they love that I hated. I'm sure if I made a video on like an actual review about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I made no bones about it. Or even I'll get to Black Panther in a minute. I'll make no bones about it. I hated the movie.
Yeah.
And I could see people just saying to me like, "Oh, you're a DC dick sucker," or this is the standard typical stuff, or they go further with that. Or even Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I also did not like that movie. There were things. Angela Bassett, I thought she did great, but I could see me being a Caucasian male. I could see me reviewing that, and then people going as far as say, "Oh, you're racist" or whatnot, yada yada yada.
And I'm glad you brought that up. There's like, I've noticed that, and I'm talking about grand spectrums, not just like communities and places you and I have touched and been in, but grand spectrum. Like the last couple of years has been real heavy about dropping that. If you don't agree with certain way, if you don't do this, you're a fucking racist, or you're a sexist, or you're a transphobe, or whatever it may be. I just don't, and it causes these rifts, and it's hard to come back from that, man. Like you just, once you're labeled something like that, one of the other ones, and I've heard people use this word, they'll drop you and call you a chomo, which you know what that means, correct?
Yeah.
They'll call you shit like that, and like they frequently throw these words out there, like it's like they're drinking a glass of water. I don't get how these allegating somebody and saying things like you're a fucking racist, you're this, all because you have a different opinion on something or that you feel this. Like you and I, like I'm a conservative and I've been called horrible things because I'm an Hispanic conservative. I just never understood that my philosophy on politics would make me out to be a fucking villain. And it's stupid. You can't do that anywhere else in the world. Like if I'm sitting there having a conversation with somebody, I mean, more so now you can, but there was a time when that would be, you wouldn't dare do that in fucking open Congress in public and shit like that. But on the fucking internet, man, it's like time is even different on the internet. I've said this before to people. Like a day in the real world is like weeks in the internet. A month in the real world is years. And like you see full on fucking dynasties built and crumble in the matter of fucking 6 weeks. It is intense how internet the circle that is the internet and the ideology of people on these kind of platforms really just is like nothing else out there. Sometimes in the positive, but a lot more in the negative.
Yeah, and with all that regarding that, it's just the idea of, hey, let's go out. Like the one thing I always say regarding all this, regarding it to me, I've always said, especially if you have thick skin or whatnot, it's all fine and dandy if it's just like a troll going after you, going after your account, what have you. And then there are trolls and other accounts who will go even further, go into your personal life, go into your stalk you, harass you. I've like even people that I used to call friends have harassed work, harassed this, this, that, and the third. So it goes from just having some type of issue with you on the internet to a obsession. And to me, I've always said those are the times when it's not really, when it becomes not fun anymore. Even if you're one to maybe engage a troll or engage somebody for a little while, and maybe it's the complex of, well, I can't get to you with words. Well, let me try to, fuck up your personal life.
Well, and to, like I said, okay, so just to touch that a bit, you did something very dumb, right? Well, we won't have to go into it. Like, anybody who knows you knows that you did something really fucking stupid a while back. It was one of the reasons that you and I did not talk for a very, 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 very long time. And part of that's my fault because I didn't want to even hear your side of things. I didn't want to know. I felt like if you could have trusted anybody, it could have been me. But beyond that, you did something that at the time I was like, I don't know how my brain could not quite compute the scenario. And so you went through a very rough time where one thing, it was like a snowball effect. And, this turned into this turned into this, comments were made. People were contacting your place of employment. They were trying to contact your residents. They were doing everything possible to make your life a living hell. And it is, do I ever think that it should go that far? No. I think that, look, if you don't like somebody, especially on platforms like this, then you don't watch them, this is taking time, right? There was a time when I was right there with people and I'd be like, yeah, fuck this person. They did this. Fuck them. Let's fuck up their life. I don't think I've ever been to a point where I thought that doxing was necessarily the path to go, but I've always been like, I had always been one of those people who was like strongly believed in justice. And at the end of the day, I had that epiphany where I was like, you know what? The fuck am I doing? Who am I to sell anybody anything? I'm not perfect. I've been a piece of shit before. I've made my mistakes, and I have lost faith in somebody here. I have lost a desire to indulge in them as a human being and as them as a content creator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to remove myself and I'm going to move on this way. If we see each other in passing, it is what it is. But like I said, like people like to push this to a level that I don't. Again, over silly misunderstanding or people doing something fucked up, but they like to go to that place, and it does take its toll. And I think you can speak to that better than, I mean, I have my own personal issues that I've dealt with, but I think you can speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, and with that, it was like, and I've always told people this. It was with people going after that type of stuff. It really did not affect me personally. And what I mean by that is like, like you pop into YouTube and you get the virtual tomato thrown at you by a lot of people. Like I wasn't like afraid to walk out of my own home or whatnot. And it's different for people who, let's say, would have bigger followings and people would know and all that stuff. But like I would go in the word or whatnot, and maybe somebody would be made aware of somebody being about some stuff like, oh yeah, I've been contacted by this individual, all that good stuff. Could be in that regard, but it like I've always said this: the difference between the people on here who maybe interact with me for however long I'm on a video or live or whatnot. People who interact with me there compared to people who know me around the area. Like I'll use this as an example. When Mason came down and when I was taking him a tour of downtown and all that. And I've always said that I'm very well known, especially downtown and all that stuff regarding not just like work history, this, that, and the third, but just in general. And Mason was literally kind of, he kind of like, he didn't like, not that he didn't believe, but he was like, well, I did not expect you to be, this popular and all that stuff. And because I was telling him.
Well, time out. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was surprised that something you said was true, right?
Yeah.
So can that also be somewhat your fault though? Because at one point you really fucked your credibility. You were caught and some fabrication. You did say some shit that wasn't true. One of them was very big. We don't have to go into detail. So maybe that's part of it, like, and for everything that you had done up to that point, and people did follow and believe in you as a person when those things came out that they were false. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair for Mason or anybody else to not believe the stuff that comes out of your mouth. And I mean, and that takes time to rebuild that kind of, trust.
Yeah, and agree to that. And like what I was getting to at that point was that, like it's different for people who only see you on the internet, or even like don't interact with you that much privately, because they're like, and we've talked about this, there are only a handful of people like on this platform that I interact with daily or weekly outside, like privately, right? So like there are people like, but the people who I interact with on the daily outside of the internet, some I've known for years, some people I've known for almost a decade. And so it basically, but it could also go back to you never really know how people are and all that stuff, but it's basically what you show and what they see and all that stuff. But with a lot of people nowadays, it's like they have one thing to go off of for their end of time. And it could be one little thing, it could be one big thing. And it's just, and this is more of a generalization of people, of like people's perception. Like you say something 5 years ago, they're going to still hold on to that 5 years later, probably 10 years later. And
that's a bitter pill to swallow, and I've always disliked that. Like, okay, so look, there's two sides of that coin, right? So you and I have had discussions about like when I cut ties with the people I cut ties with, whatever the case may be, depending on the situation, I may never talk to them again because I have no interest. If I feel like the the violation of trust or the action that took place was worthy enough, then I will respectively forgive whatever that transgression was, but I don't need to interact with you ever again because you, in my opinion, have showed me who you are. Great. I don't have a desire to waste my time with you. In that same breath, I've also never understood this idea that someone can be vilified for something that maybe it was minute, maybe it was grand, and if it was a big fucking deal or something like that, I can understand that more. But for something so minute or something that was based on hearsay and never proven as fact, unless they've actually come out and found a way to what's the word?
Proving it.
Prove it. Well, there was another word I was going to use, but yeah, unless they've come out and found a way to exonerate themselves. That's the word. Exonerate themselves. They are held under a judgment for years and years, and it's a weird thing, this idea of YouTube justice, because some things that should be pulled and your local authorities called out, like abuse or fucking pedophilia or things that are legitimately done, EDP 445, things like that should be pointed out and taken and run with to your local authorities are not. They think that, just cancel this guy or do this. That's okay. That's enough. That's justice. But things like, you badmouthed me on a stream 10 years ago, or, we had beef years ago. We're going to hold that for fucking 10 years. It's a very strange conundrum for me. It's a very weird ideology. Like I don't get it. And I've gotten to a point where I'm not trying to, but I find it fascinating. I'll just say that.
Same. Like, it's just the idea of how can you hold that to somebody that one you don't really know as a person, but also someone you may never meet in your personal and real life ever, because it could be someone from different states, different countries, like hundreds, thousands of miles away. That and that's also the freedom of it, because people could be they could be like a wimp or something, and they're not they would never in their million lives or in a million years fight somebody or get to that point. So they could just be on the internet and do that type of stuff and not have to worry. Yeah, they may worry about legal ramifications if it gets to a certain point, but they're never going to have to worry about, this guy's never going to go up to my door, or this chick's ever going to go to my door, or they're not going to stop at my work, or they're not going to stop at my place where I hang out at or something. They're never going to.
Until they do, though. I mean, recently in the last couple of years or so, we've seen that. We've seen people show up to others' houses, and we've seen people fucking contacting people's jobs. And this is stuff that I saw in an extremity of the internet, where it was really rough. It was a community just built on that. And I came from that, and I saw it. And I saw how deep and dark some people could get. And I got away from that as soon as I could, because I realized, that, and then there's stories that I can't share now. I really wish we could have that conversation, but I can't. I'll just say that people were used in a horrible, horrible way. I'll leave it at that. But when I started over here with you guys and parlaying and just enjoying the way that things were, I never thought I'd see that again. But it's crazy how worlds collide, and that kind of stuff can happen. It's gotten to a point where it's way too serious, and it doesn't need to be. And you and I have talked about this, especially after your almost and your exile and return, and then exile again, and my self-imposed. Once you take a step back, you kind of look at things, you realize that there's more important things in real life, and that this is for what it is. It's a simulation. All this is a simulation, and that to quote one of my favorite movies, and I think you like it as well, you dictate. What did you say? Tyler Durden said it to Jack.
Shit.
You control your level of involvement. I believe that's what the quote was.
Yeah, and Fight Club, I believe, is Yeah, yeah, it is my favorite. I was trying to remember. It was like because usually it's like my top three. That's Born Killers and The Crow. Three very different. Well, maybe not Natural Born Killers and Fight Club, but it was gonna be like three very different movies and all that. But yeah,
but I think the philosophies is there though. Like if you look at Tyler Durden's ideology and the way he looked at the world, I see like in his world he saw crops growing in the center of Rockefeller. And Rockefeller Center. He saw that. He saw the government crumbling, but it was an ideology that he had. You control your level of involvement. That's what the quote was. You control your level of involvement. And he was talking about Project Mayhem, and he was talking how things had changed because Jack was no longer in control. So Jack was ultimately in control of everything. He just didn't realize it. So no different than, and I'm bringing this full circle now, but you control what affects you on this. If you have nothing to hide, you should be fine. Like if you're just here performing entertainment and trying to create content for an audience, great, you do that. The second you decide to have a stance on something, the second you decide to put your 2 cents in on somebody else's drama, on someone else's beef, for lack of a better term, that is when you get burned. That is when you're now in the kitchen. You're now in the driver's seat. See, I've realized that, and in doing this, like with you, it's fun because we're just sitting here having a conversation. And though you have had issues with certain people in this spectrum, you and I are just sitting down talking, has nothing to do with anybody else. We are just enjoying each other's camaraderie and trying to build a narrative of enlightenment and understanding instead of trying to rush into a battleground that doesn't need to be fought. Like as the old adage is, this is not our hill to die on.
Agreed. And something else that like makes the internet beef kind of interesting in the grand scheme of things is that like it is the easiest way, and this is, I've talked about this publicly and privately. It is the easiest way to get your channel noticed, whether it's for good or bad reasons. You can make a video about how much you like turkey, for example. And that video, sometimes it could do well, but a lot of times it's not going to do that good of a number, especially if you're a smaller channel. But then you do a video of, oh, I hate this guy, and I'm going to spend 3 hours talking about it. You could get a couple hundred, if not thousands of views off of that one video. And it could be just something completely meaningless, but people enjoy the chaos, enjoy the, like, even from the viewer side of it, enjoy the chaos and enjoy just the carnage that's going on. Basically, we've talked to us before about like Jerry Springer. Still to this day, people like that type of content, whether it's on here or on television.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. We are a car crash society. I will admit, honestly, there's been times when I've truly enjoyed the dramatics. I've enjoyed the back and forth. There have been times that I have actually dumbed myself down and started pretending to be something I'm not, in the sense that I'm trying to like lower my vernacular or doing anything I can to try to, because I wanted to participate. I enjoyed the Coliseum, I guess, for shout out to a mutual friend of ours. But I've enjoyed the Coliseum aspect of it, David and the Lion, and I've enjoyed that back and forth. But no one enjoys it when you're the sacrificial lamb, and there's no escaping it. It's like death and taxes. It's going to happen at some point. You're going to be the one who's ready for slaughter. Now, if you can survive that round, what a rush, right? Like, what a rush. You survive the attack, so now you feel unstoppable. And I will use you as the example. When I first met you, you would try to pick a fight with just about anybody. And you would, if you were able to walk out, with minor bumps and bruises and more or less unscathed, you would claim victory. And you would stand on that podium, on that soapbox, screaming to anybody who could hear you, Hangman Charlie, defeats another. And in all honesty, and I say this as your friend, you never won a single fight. Because those people are still there, except for maybe one. Nobody wins. It is a junkie It is a drug-fueled illusion to believe that anybody wins in any of this. It's no different than if you remember the episode of South Park, Heroin Hero, when he's sitting there injecting himself, chasing this dragon. Oh, but he can't catch him. He's going to get him this time. Oh, no, didn't get him. That's all it is. I'm having this epiphany right now as we're talking, which is live right here in this recording. You chase it and you want it and you want to be the top. You want to show everybody that, oh, I'm smarter than you. I'm better looking than you. I'm tougher than you. I can kick your ass. All these different fucking narratives, all these different intangible, ungraspable ideals, and you can't get to it. But it feels pretty damn good chasing it. So let's keep going. Here, I mean, like, for instance, like, you can make drama out of anything, and I'll use this exact podcast. You can speak to the truth of this. We created a bunch of different topics in like a night, right? And this was like, what, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I was making thumbnails because they're pretty easy to make using your head and my head. And we just kind of threw some stuff like spaghetti against the wall. And, internet beef, that sounds good. This sounds good. Oh, the OnlyFans thing, that sounds good. And we have like 5 or 6 of them. And dramatically in your life, and your YouTube existence, drama shows up. And someone will probably say they're doing this because of this particular fucking drama. And it's not the case. But someone will say that because it sounds good on a bumper sticker. Because there's another narrative to go down the fucking rabbit hole. No different than last week. We did the OnlyFans thing. And I know that there are other people on other channels that were talking about things of that nature. I ended up glancing over at it when I recommended and it popped up, and I'm like, holy shit. And again, another reason to say, oh, they're stealing from us or this and that. But that's not the case. These are just topics we came up with. But nobody wants to believe that. It's one of those things. But it's okay. It's okay, though. And I think that with my mindset now, and I think you're coming along to that, and I'm very happy with that. Like, I can't tell you what to do when you're a grown man, but I think that you have, like I said, we've had long-winded conversations, and I'll attach Paige to that because we've had wonderful conversations, sharing ideas. It's not worth it. So anyone can talk, anyone can say, it's not worth it anymore. I've come too far from what I was, and what I want to be is within reach. And I am very happy, and I haven't been this happy in a long time. And a lot of it took detachment. So that, I guess my big thing is, why go back? Right?
No, and I agree. Like, even I've said this, things have changed, not just whether it's with me or just with the whole landscape of things. Like, not a lot of people, like a lot of people that were, let's say, streaming in 2020, 2021 are not streaming anymore. And there's a few things that are going into that, whether it was the pandemic, whether it was, not being able to basically go out and do anything. I remember when, I would do videos or streams every day because I was getting all this money, but I couldn't go to Six Flags, or I couldn't go to my local exchange and go and pick up movies or so on and so forth. I couldn't go do those things. So it's like, everything was being delivered to me or whatnot in that regard. So it was a lot easier back then just to be like, oh, let's click live and let's talk about whether it's beef, whether it's this, that, and the third. And nowadays it's a lot different. It's like I've told people regarding streams and all that. I've told them, I said, if I can make it, I don't have an issue with it. And most people are understanding about that. They know I work, or they know I have a life and whatnot. But it's different now than it was even then. And a lot of this stuff is like I've always said, sometimes the internet beef is irritating to listen to from a distance, and fuck, it will make let's say a long day at work go by quick we were talking about the Coliseum earlier, and I said that I listened to a lot of that during the periods because it would the chaos would make the time go away, and kind of going from the viewer perspective of it, not just from our own personal experience. Like, so I could see from even the viewer side of things how it could be entertaining and enticing to you, that you may not want to listen to somebody just talk about, this is the news about this video game coming out. You know, people want to hear, oh, fuck you, fuck you, fuck your mother. There's just consistent back and forth, just yelling, just chaos. So, but the old saying is, it's fine. Like we alluded to this earlier, it's fine when you're not involved in it, but when you're in it, sometimes it's not so nice.
And I agree with that, but I want to clarify something as well. Like, it was always there. Okay, I can say that honestly, there's maybe one person, as far as the internet goes, maybe one person that in my mind, I'm not going to say I hate, because that's a very strong word.
Yeah.
But I really, really don't like them. Like, there's one person in this whole thing that I look at them and I don't care. Like, I don't, if I were to be face to face with them, I don't think I could, I'm a very controlled person, but I can't promise that they would walk away unscathed. That's the lightest I'll put it. Just because of who they are, what they've done. And it's not somebody, and I don't think you even know who they are. You might know who they are. Well, yeah, we'll have to talk about that later. But
yeah,
I don't hate or dislike anybody. I know there are factions that have grown. I know that and I hate the word fucking community as far as this stuff, because it's not a community. It's a bunch of people fucking pissing and moaning. But I know there's a lot of different groups that like to fucking grapple with each other verbally, and there's battle lines drawn, and I look at that, I'm like, I enjoy content from some sides, and I enjoy content from others. Some on the side that you would say that you are on, right? I find them, and we've talked about this as well, I find them to be mind-numbing. I find them to be ignorant and not worth my time. And I use that old high school adage, that scale of, if I was in high school with these people, correct? Would I hang out with them? Probably not. Would I engage with this person even though they're talking mad shit? Probably not. Like, they have their own sect, they do their thing. So why would I interfere? Why would I even care? Oh, you're gonna talk shit. Okay, well, you're over here with them. All right, and this is going to sound very elitist, and it's not meant to be, but then again, it kind of is. Why waste my time with someone who I know for a fact there's no reason to engage, because, like, we're on completely different levels, and maybe they feel they're on this level, but I feel like I'm on this level. So why waste my time? Like, engaging with that is a lose for me, because one, I don't get that mental stimulation of actually engaging with someone who is, I feel, my equal or greater. And two, and like I said, there's no right answer here, because no matter what I say, I'll come off as a fucking prick who thinks he's better. But
yeah,
in my mind, in my heart of hearts, I believe there are some of these people who I would definitely call troglodytes, like they're mongoloids, and they act a certain way, in my opinion. But that's for me to have, and I can have that, all right? Like, and this is the biggest thing that I don't think a lot of people are grasping, and they want to fight over this idea. It's okay to feel a certain way. It's okay to have an idea. It's okay to feel that you are this, and you can achieve this, and you've done these things, and that you are at a level that you are, if you've earned that for yourself. You don't always have to fucking speak it. You don't always have to fucking sit there and coddle someone's fucking ego. You can go off and do your own thing and live your life. I've done that, and I'm living a pretty good fucking life right now, because I decided to detach and realize my value. I wish more people would do that and understand, okay, this is who I am. Okay, I know I'm better than this person, so why am I wasting my time? That is one of the biggest things that I fucking find frustrating, is that no one's allowed to have an opinion or you're like, I'm allowed to like a content creator, whether like Chayton, if you don't like somebody and I like them, I'm going to still enjoy their content. Like that's not going to change. And vice versa. Like if there are people that you are fans of and what have you that I don't like, but I'm not going to expect you to fucking say, oh, you can't, if you don't like them, we can't do the podcast anymore. We can't, we just have those conversations privately and say, hey man, like this is your thing. And I, hey, do your thing. I'm not a fan. It's all good. I'm not going to sit here and watch shit that I don't want to watch. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time getting pissed off about people that I'm not entertained by. The point of this platform is to entertain, educate, and overall just enjoy your time. And we've slipped away because, again, there are people that you like, I don't like. I'm just not a fan. It is what it is. It's not a hatred. It's not a dislike. It's just I'm not interested. I don't care. No different than there are things that I like that you don't. But we're able to come together and have these conversations, and it's okay. It's fine. No big deal. If we can just break that down and expand that to other people, that would be great. Then everybody could they won't have to get along, but fuck. They can have civil discourse.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, like, I'm always up for a good debate, like, and just something that's kind of like a professional thing where we just even if we at the end of the day there's no who's right and wrong, and even going back to what you said earlier about the victory thing, it's like the wrestling terminology buried or whatever, and like I've always said, no matter what, nobody is truly buried. The only way you could say that is if somebody does not show their face on a platform ever again. They're basically done. They're not around. And everybody, and I've been guilty of this too, where we've said, I buried this guy, I buried that guy, I buried so on and so forth. And it's not true, because if that person is still around, even if they're not interacting with you or doing whatever, they're still around, which means you basically failed at your mission. If that was your mission to bury somebody, then you failed. Not saying that you lost the war or whatnot, but even going from the war category of this, I've always said this, even before anything. I've said with a lot of the internet thing, and I've even asked or told people this privately, what is the ultimate goal, and what happens when you don't achieve that goal, and also, is it an attainable goal? And that will actually lead into a something we'll be talking about next week, regarding I kind of consider a part 2 to this, regarding just burying people and trying to quote unquote cancel them.
Well, and to speak to that, you were almost right. Like there was a point where you were almost, but not to the okay. So this is such a small spectrum in the grand things. And like I said, we'll get into that as far as cancel culture and society. This was just an appetizer to that, because like in reality, no one can truly, as far as this goes, and as far as the level of viewership and reach that you and I have here, no one can really cancel anything here, because we'll just come back. And I think when you have that realization that this is not a war, other than it's more or less toddlers shooting squirt guns at each other. Like, this is not a real fucking dynamic battle. It is a bunch of people playing at God that have no choice but to come back tomorrow and do it again. But I find it hilarious how, I know I don't want to stretch this on any longer than it has to go, right? Like we have set times that we try to keep it within, right? But
yeah,
I find it interesting, and this is just, again, popped in my head, the idea that if you come to the platform of YouTube, you will find lawyers, you will find law enforcement or masters of law enforcement knowledge,
investigators,
investigative journalists. You'll find psychologists and therapists, and this is not to like. I just find it interesting. Like I don't want this to come off as pandering or an assault on anybody. I'm simply saying, like, no matter where I've gone, like whether it be like I'm really into into a community about mukbangers and stuff like that. I find some of the stuff they talk about interesting. I'm really into the lolcow communities. Like I've found guys like Cyrax, and if you really think that y'all haven't seen anything bad here, take a look at fucking Cyrax and tell me how bad you really have it. That guy he's a living demon. I shit you not. The man is a walking abomination, and you're welcome. And I also apologize if you ever come across one of his content or a compilation of his work. Fucking, he's a monster. But I'm saying is, like, everybody, even in those communities, if you were to talk to them and listen to them, they're third degree law professors at fucking Columbia. Like they are fucking right there with fucking Nostradamus, man. They're fucking Mensa trained fucking scientists, or they're fucking third star lieutenants in the fucking police force, or they are fucking up there with Jordan Peterson as far as mental psychology and things and understanding the human mind. It's incredible how many of these brilliant geniuses are on this platform, and they know how to tell you how to live your life, and they know by the twitch of your nose that you have cancer, or by the fucking wiggle of your dick that you are truly gay. And like, it's the weirdest shit that I've ever seen. And I don't know. I could go on a whole tangent about that, but I know you want to close that up.
Yeah, and I guess to close it off regarding this whole thing, it's like going back to everything where I've said I guess my message to everybody who watch or even listen to us, even in podcast form, the one thing I will say is, whenever you decide to engage this type of stuff, the internet beef and all that stuff, I would say ask yourself two questions regarding the whole thing before you even think about engaging. Number one, what will I gain from it? And the second question, and you could say both of them are kind of similar at the end of the day, but is it worth it? Are you going to come out of it knowing more and benefiting from it? And honestly, I would say if you can't answer the first one, then the second one should be obvious of the answer. But that would be something I would add to anybody who ever has to deal with it, because internet beef is a hell of a drug. It's something that a lot of people try to get away from, and they have stumbles and all that, and then there are some who just can fully detach themselves from it. And, and then some are just stuck there for the rest of their existence on this earth. So that is something I would leave with that in that regard regarding all that. But yeah, because we probably could have made an hour, 2 hour thing about this. Maybe one day if we feel like we have more to add, we could do internet beef part 2 or something, or find some all that.
Electric Boogaloo. Yes. Yeah,
Electric Boogaloo. Yes. So I'm gonna see for copyright for that name. But yeah, and that's the thing. We could always do part 2s of these on a later dates, because the world of YouTube, the world of the internet is ever changing. So in 6 weeks we could have more stuff to discuss regarding this very same topic, and it goes to anything that we've talked about since the inception of this show.
I'm going to ask you for a favor this one time.
Yeah,
I want to close it out.
You want to close it out?
I want to close it out.
All right.
And this is actually a paying homage to the late great Jerry Springer. My final thought. So today we've talked about something that has affected all of us, especially anybody within the sound of my voice, anybody that's worked on this platform, anybody that's been on social media in general. We talked about the ups. We've talked about the comical side of it. We've talked about how low it can get. People have gone to very dark places in regards to internet beef. We see that we as a society still have a lot of growing up to do. We have been given these wonderful tools, these toys to play with. And sometimes it may be our time to be put in time out and have our toys taken away from us. This is just a thought that I had, that as human beings, we need a little checkout time. We need a time to breathe and be better. Because if we want to change, if we want to really enforce a difference, then we have to change for ourselves, not anybody else. We have to be better for the next generation. I hope we can do that. That being said, this has been the Exiled Outcast. I'm Dan. He's Chayton. And always remember to take care of yourselves and each other.